This is Joe Coper with Global Reference News Inside of America. In today's story, we're going to talk about how a Seattle judge has blocked Donald Trump's motion to end birthright citizenship. Let's take a look at this clip and we'll discuss it.
I want to bring back Julia Ainsley. We were waiting to hear from the judge on the request on Trump's birthright citizenship order. Do we have a decision?
We do. A quick decision, Chris. The judge just issued a temporary restraining order, putting a nationwide block, at least temporarily, on Trump's executive order to end birthright citizenship for children who were born to mothers who are in the United States either unlawfully or temporarily. This was quick. I'm told by our producers in the room, Daniel Barnes, said that the judge said out loud, I have signed the TRO, that temporary restraining order, just as soon as the lawyers from both sides stopped talking. It was a quick decision. But what this means, Chris, is that this is surely going to end up at the Supreme Court. We can expect an appeal from the Trump administration. We can expect that they will continue to fight this legal battle all the way to the Supreme Court. What today's arguments did is they gave us a window into how the Trump administration is going to argue. Most of their arguments centered around the fact that they didn't want a nationwide ban and that they thought that the judge was out of his authority to do a ban to enjoin the president. There wasn't much about why this order in itself was constitutional. And as we pointed out earlier, the judge said, over 4 decades on the bench, this judge is 85 years old, and that he had never seen anything as blatantly unconstitutional as this executive order, Chris.
Well, we'll see if it eventually gets before the Supreme Court, if they agree with that. Julia Ainsley, thank you for staying on top of this for us.
Now, as it's mentioned inside the clip, most likely this will go to the Supreme Court, providing that any of the judges in the Supreme Court actually want to hear the case. Now, let's talk about the 14th Amendment. And what's very much important is context, okay? When the 14th Amendment was created, this was more than 100 years ago. I think possibly more than 150 years ago. At the time, slaves or children of slaves, well, at the time, black people, slaves, etc., they weren't considered American citizens. They didn't have the rights of American citizenship. And what was happening was these people were coming out of slavery and they weren't having any kind of rights whatsoever to vote, to buy land, etc. So what happened was they had to make an amendment to what was the Constitution, which would allow that anyone born within the realm of the United States was a citizen by default. In that time, in that realm back then, it was in context of the slaves or the descendants of slaves. Now, these days, the people who are trying to take advantage of this 14th Amendment weren't even in mind when the 14th Amendment was created. This is a huge problem, and this is most likely why the Supreme Court will either decide on it or decide against it, depending on what is their interpretation of the context. So this is a matter that has yet to be decided in its full. Do I think it will pass Trump's motion? It's a strong possibility. However, it may seem unlikely. This is Joe Coper with Global Reference News. Follow us at www.globalreferencenews.com for more stories, not only in America, but around the world.